How to create photo camera in Adobe Illustrator in 7 easy steps. Hello, you're watching TNT Tutorials. If you're absolute zero in drawing and Adobe Illustrator, this tutorial is for you. Let's begin with creating a new document. You can press Ctrl N or go to File, New. You will also see this window when you're only launching your Adobe Illustrator. Go to Print, select A4, Horizontal Orientation. In Advanced Options, select RGB and click on Create. I've placed this camera here so you could have a reference. And first of all, let me show you tools that we will use today. As you can see, this camera is a bunch of rectangles and ellipses. So today we will use rectangle tool and ellipse tool. We'll also use Gaussian blur effect here to create a shadow, and we will change opacity here to create a shadow for our lens. To get started, go to Layer panel, and you will have your layer number 1. Double click here and rename it to Photo Camera. Our first step will be creating a base layer here. So let's pick this color, go to Fill Color icon, and select color similar to this. Now go here for Rectangle tool. You can press M and draw rectangle. Now what we need to do is to round corners. You can round corners by dragging this point like this. I will stop somewhere here. And now press V for Selection tool. We use Selection tool to select and move objects and to change their proportions like this. I will press Ctrl Z to undo. And we use Direct Selection tool to select and move points. So let's start with step number 2. Let's create this stripe here. To do this, deselect this object by clicking somewhere on the workspace, because we want to pick this color now, and if we'll have this object selected, we'll simply apply new color to this object. We don't want this, so we deselect this object. Let's pick a color similar to this. Double click here. Go for Rectangle tool again and draw a rectangle here. If you want to change proportions now or to move your rectangle, press V on your keyboard to pick Selection tool, and now you can change proportions. So our next step, step number 3, will be creating this shadow here. Let's deselect this object again. And now we need some dark color. Let's go to Fill Color icon. Pick some dark color here. Go for Rectangle tool. And draw a rectangle somewhere here. Now what we need to do is to change opacity. Go to Properties panel, it's on the right. You must have your object selected. I will change opacity to 25%. Now I think I want to change proportions of this shadow, so I'll pick Selection tool. And if you want to be more precise in changing proportions, you need to zoom in. To do this, you should pick Zoom tool. Press Z on your keyboard, hold your left mouse button, and drag your mouse to the right. To zoom out, hold your left mouse button and drag your mouse to the left. So I will zoom in, press V for Selection tool, and change proportions here a bit. To quickly zoom out, press Ctrl+1. I think it's too far away now, so I will zoom in a bit. And now it's time for step number 4. We will create these buttons here. Let's deselect this object and pick some yellow color. Similar to this. Let's go for rectangle tool. And what we will do, we will create first button and then we will copy it 2 times and simply change proportions to each one. We don't need to create 3 buttons. We'll create only 1 button and then copy it. So let's draw a rectangle here. Now let's press V for selection tool. Deselect this object by clicking somewhere on the workspace. Go to fill color icon and pick some blue color. Now go for rectangle tool again and build a rectangle here. If you want to align 2 objects, press V for selection tool, select them both, go to Properties panel, in Align menu. In this case, press Horizontal Align Center. I will move this object to the right so you could see better. Select these 2 objects and press Horizontal Align Center. Now I will move this button to the left with holding Shift, because without holding Shift I can go out of axis, but if I hold Shift I will snap to my X-axis. Now let's duplicate this button. Select these 2 objects, hold Alt on your keyboard, start to move your object to the right and hold Shift also while you're doing this. You should have Alt or Option key plus Shift combination. Let's stop somewhere here and do the same once again. Alt or Option key plus Shift and drag your object to the right. Now let's change proportions here a bit. We see that this button's shorter than this one. We'll select them both. I will zoom in a bit so you could see better. I use Hand tool to navigate. To do this, hold space on your keyboard. I press V for selection tool and change proportions like this. Now we need to change proportions here. And if you see that you need to move this button like I do, hold Shift while you're doing this, because without Shift you will go out of axis. So hold Shift and move it to the left a bit. You can also move objects by pressing left, up, down or up buttons on your keyboard. To do bigger step with these buttons, hold Shift also. So you have hold Shift and left or right buttons or up or down. Let's deselect this object by clicking somewhere on the workspace. Let's zoom out, press Z for zoom tool and drag your mouse to the left. So step number 5. Let's create viewfinder. You can see that viewfinder is basically 2 rectangles, one with rounded corners and another one without rounded corners. So let's pick some blue color, a little bit darker than this one. Go for rectangle tool and build a rectangle here. I will zoom in a little bit. I press V for selection tool. And now we will round corners. Drag this point like this. I deselect this object by clicking somewhere on the workspace. So let's pick some darker color. Double click here. Let's pick a color like this. Go for rectangle tool again. And draw a rectangle here. If you think that this color is too dark and you have already deselected it, pick selection tool, select it again, and change color. So I think that I need to make it a little bit darker. Our viewfinder is ready. And now let's create a lens. It might seem complicated, but basically there's 6 ellipses that we will create in 1 minute. So step number 6 is creating a lens. Let's pick a color like this. It's a little bit brighter than a color in viewfinder window, so make sure that all objects are deselected. Go for eyedropper tool and click on this color. Now double-click on this fill color icon and pick a color like this, a little bit brighter. Now go for ellipse tool and build ellipse here. To create ellipse but not oval, press Shift and hold it while you're drawing your ellipse. I will stop on something like this. And if you need to change proportions of your ellipse, press V for selection tool. And you have two ways now. You can change proportions to one side, hold Shift, and change proportions like this. I will press Ctrl Z to undo. And you can hold Shift plus Alt or Option key and change proportions like this. You can also do this without Shift. You can hold only Alt and change proportions. Without Alt, you will change proportions only to one side. So I will press Ctrl Z to undo. I use hand tool to navigate. To do this, hold space. And now let's quickly create all these copies. Select your ellipse, press Ctrl C, and then Ctrl plus F. Hold Shift plus Alt or Option key and make this object smaller. Now pick a color, like this. Then press Ctrl C, Ctrl F again. And do the same, make this object smaller. We already have this color, we used it in our viewfinder, so let's go for eyedropper tool and pick this color. Now press Ctrl C, Ctrl F. Press V for selection tool, and again make this object smaller. Let's pick some darker color here. Don't go too crazy, just a little bit darker, like this. Then Ctrl C, Ctrl F, make object smaller. Press I for eyedropper tool, and pick this color. Now Ctrl C, Ctrl F, press V for selection tool, Shift plus Alt, and make object smaller. Now pick this dark color, press I for eyedropper tool, and pick this color. Now you can see that you want to change some proportions. Pick selection tool, and with combination of Shift plus Alt, you can change proportions to any ellipse. So I will select this ellipse, make it smaller. I think that I need to make smaller this one, Shift plus Alt. Now I will make smaller this one a little bit. And I will stop on something like this. Now we need to create these two circles here. Let's pick similar color to this. Pick Ellipse tool. Shortcut for Ellipse tool is L button. Now hold Shift and draw ellipse here. Press V for selection tool. Hold Alt or Option key on your keyboard and drag this object here. Now press Shift plus Alt or Option key and make this circle smaller. I will make it even smaller, like this. And with selection tool you can move them and change proportions again if you need. I will stop on this result and move forward with step number 7. I will create shadows for our lens and for our camera. To do this, we will use pen tool. First of all, pick some dark color. Now go for a pen tool. It's over here. Select it. And now it really doesn't matter where you start to draw it. You can click here. Illustrator will help you to snap here. Click here and connect these points. Now I will zoom in so you can see better. To move points, we use Direct Selection tool. So pick Direct Selection tool. Select a point that you need to move. And then move it. I will stop here. I will select this point. Move it here. So you should have this shape here, and this point should fit your lens. So I will stop on this result. In Properties panel, we will change opacity. I think 25% will be just great. Now go to Layers panel. Open your layer group. Select this layer and drag it down behind your lens. Now zoom out. Press V for selection tool. Deselect this object. You can see that our shadow is done, and we need to create a shadow for our camera. This is very easy to do. Just have your dark color selected. Go for rectangle tool. Draw a rectangle here. Go to Effect, Blur, and select Gaussian Blur. You can click on Preview, change values, pick any value that you want, click OK, and if you need to change it, go to Properties, click here on your effect, click on Preview, and change proportions again. I will stop on something like this, click OK, and now if you want to align your shadow with your camera, go for Selection tool, select your camera. Make sure that you have selected only your camera, but not this shadow. And you can click in Properties panel, in Quick Actions, Group here, or press Ctrl plus G. the same. Your layers are in group now. You can see this in your layers panel, that you have created a group. And now select your group layer with your shadow, go to Properties panel, and click on Horizontal Align Center. Now I think that we need to round corners of this rectangle, so press V for Selection tool, click on your object, and drag this point like this. If you want to make your shadow wider, press V for Selection tool, select your shadow, hold Alt, and change proportions like this. You will change proportions to both sides. To put this layer down, right-click on this layer, go to Arrange, and click Send to Back. Change opacity in Properties panel. I will stop on 50%. And if you need to move your shadow, you can use up or down buttons on your keyboard. After you watched how I create this camera, try to create this camera by yourself. Just leave this image like reference. And if you have any difficulties with creating this camera, or something wasn't clear enough for you in this tutorial, ask me in comments below. I'm very excited to know what you, my subscribers, would like to watch and learn, so you can also write in comments if you want to see a tutorial about certain object, tool or effect. Thank you for watching. Press subscribe and thumbs up if you like this video, and click on the bell icon if you want to get notifications about new tutorials from TNT. See you in the next videos.